Now then the principles of man are this wise vehicled: mind in the reason logos, the reason in the soul, soul in the spirit, and spirit in the body. Spirit pervading body by means of veins and arteries and blood, bestows upon the living creature motion, and as it were doth bear it in a way. For this cause some do think the soul is blood, in that they do mistake its nature, not knowing that at death it is the spirit that must first withdraw into the soul, whereon the blood congeals and veins and arteries are emptied, and then the living creature is withdrawn. And this is body's death. Now from one source all things depend. While source dependeth from the one and only one. Source is, moreover, moved to become source again. Whereas the one standeth perpetually and is not moved. Three then are they: God, the Father and the good, Cosmos and man. God doth contain Cosmos. Cosmos containeth man. Cosmos is ere God's son, man as it were Cosmos's child. Not that, however, God ignoreth man. Nay, right well doth he know him, and willeth to be known. This is the sole salvation for a man, God's gnosis. This is the way up to the mount. By him alone the soul becometh good, not whiles is good, whiles evil, but good out of necessity. Tat. What dost thou mean, thrice greatest one? Her. Behold an infant soul, my son, that is not yet cut off, because its body is still small and not as yet come unto its full bulk. Tat. How? Her. A thing of beauty altogether is such a soul to see, not yet befooled by body's passions, still all but hanging from the cosmic soul. But when the body grows in bulk and draweth down the soul into its mass, then doth the soul cut off itself and bring upon itself forgetfulness, and no more shritten the beautiful and good. And this forgetfulness becometh vice. It is the same for them who go out from the body. For when the soul withdraws into itself, the spirit doth contract itself within the blood, and soul within the spirit. And then the mind, stripped of its wrappings, and naturally divine, taking unto itself a fiery body, doth traverse every space, after abandoning the soul unto its judgment and whatever chastisement it hath deserved. Tat. What dost thou, farther, mean by this? The mind is parted from the soul and soul from spirit? Whereas thou saidst the soul was the mind's vesture, and the soul's the spirit. Her. The hearer, son, should think with him who speaks and breathe with him. Nay, he should have a hearing subtler than the voice of him who speaks. It is, son, in a body made of earth that this arrangement of the vestures comes to pass. For in a body made of earth it is impossible the mind should take its seat itself by its own self in nakedness. For neither is it possible on the one hand the earthy body should contain such immortality, nor on the other that so great a virtue should endure a body passible in such close contact with it. It taketh, then, the soul for as it were an envelope. And soul itself, being too a thing divine, doth use the spirit as its envelope, while spirit doth pervade the living creature. When then the mind doth free itself from the earth body, it straightway putteth on its proper robe of fire, with which it could not dwell in an earth body. For earth doth not bear fire. For it is all set in a blaze even by a small spark. And for this cause is water poured round earth, to be a guard and wall, to keep the blazing of the fire away. But mind, the swiftest thing of all divine out thinkings, and swifter than all elements, hath for its body fire. For mind being builder doth use the fire as tool for the construction of all things, the mind of all for the construction of all things, but that of man only for things on earth. Stripped of its fire the mind on earth cannot make things divine, for it is human in its dispensation. The soul in man, however, not every soul, but one that pious is a daimonic something and divine. And such a soul when from the body freed, if it have fought the fight of piety, the fight of piety is to know God and to do wrong to no man, such soul becomes entirely mind. Whereas the impious soul remains in its own essence, chastised by its own self, and seeking for an earthly body where to enter, if only it be human. For that no other body can contain a human soul. Nor is it right that any human soul should fall into the body of a thing that doth possess no reason. For that the law of God is this, to guard the human soul from such tremendous outrage. Tat. How, father, then, is a man's soul chastised? Her. What greater chastisement of any human soul can there be, son, than lack of piety? What fire has so fierce flame as lack of piety? What ravenous beast so mauls the body as lack of piety the very soul? Dost thou not see what hosts of ills the impious soul doth bear? It shrieks and screams, I burn. I am ablaze. I know not what to cry or do. Ah, wretched me, I am devoured by all the ills that compass me about. Alack, poor me, I neither see nor hear. Such are the cries wrung from a soul chastised. Not, as the many think, and thou, son, dost suppose, that a man's soul, passing from body, is changed into a beast. Such is a very grave mistake, for that the way a soul doth suffer chastisement is this. When mind becomes a daimon, the law requires that it should take a fiery body to execute the services of God. In entering in the soul most impious it scourgeth it with whips made of its sins. And then the impious soul, scourged with its sins, is plunged in murders, outrage, blasphemy, in violence of all kinds, and all the other things whereby mankind is wronged. But on the pious soul the mind doth mount and guide it to the gnosis light. And such a soul doth never tire in songs of praise to God and pouring blessing on all men, and doing good in word and deed to all, in imitation of its sire. Wherefore, my son, thou shouldst give praise to God and pray that thou mayst have thy mind good mind. It is, then, to a better state the soul doth pass. It cannot to a worse. Further, there is an intercourse of souls. Those of the gods have intercourse with those of men, and those of men with souls of creatures which possess no reason. The higher, further, have in charge the lower. The gods look after men, men after animals irrational, while God hath charge of all. For he is higher than them all and all are less than he. Cosmos is subject, then, to God, man to the cosmos, and irrationals to man. But God is o'er them all, and God contains them all. God's rays, to use a figure, are his energies. The cosmoses are nature's. The arts and sciences are man's. The energies act through the cosmos, thence through the nature rays of cosmos upon man. The nature rays act through the elements. Man acteth through the sciences and arts. This is the dispensation of the universe, depending from the nature of the one, pervading all things through the mind, than which is not diviner or of greater energy and not a greater means for the at-owning men to gods and gods to men. He, mind, is the good daimon. Bless the soul that is most filled with him, and wretched is the soul that's empty of the mind. Tat. Farther, what dost thou mean, again? Her. Dost think then, son, that every soul hath the good mind? For 'tis of him we speak, not of the mind in service of which we just were speaking, the mind sent down for the soul's chastisement. For soul without the mind can neither speak nor act. For oftentimes the mind doth leave the soul, and at that time the soul nor sees, nor understands, but is just like a thing that hath no reason. Such is the power of mind. Yet doth it not endure a sluggish soul, but leaveth such a soul tied to the body and bound tight down by it. Such soul, my son, doth not have mind. And therefore such an one should not be called a man. For that man is a thing of life divine. Man is not measured with the rest of lives of things upon the earth, but with the lives above in heaven, who are called gods. Nay more, if we must boldly speak the true man is e'en higher than the gods, or at the very least the gods and men are every whit in power each with the other equal. For no one of the gods in heaven shall come down on the earth, o'erstepping heaven's limit. Whereas man doth mount up to heaven and measure it. He knows what things of it are high, what things are low, and learns precisely all things else besides. And greater thing than all, without e'en quitting earth, he doth ascend above. So vast a sweep doth he possess of ecstasy. For this cause can a man dare say that man on earth is God subject to death, while God in heaven is man from death immune? Wherefore the dispensation of all things is brought about by means of these, the twain cosmos and man, but by the one.